We are at the Ruth Patrick Center. It's Wednesday, October 18th, 1:30. I will be the interviewer, Megan Martin, and I'll be interviewing Megan Elledge for the honors interview. So can you tell us about when and where you were born?
I was born September 24th, 1982, in Marathon, Florida, the Keys. So, yeah, I was the last girl born there at the hospital. So,
what was it like growing up in Florida?
well, it's different. Growing up in the Keys, it's an island, so it's a whole different world. Nobody's in a hurry to do anything. Island life, you know, and then I moved to South Carolina in elementary school, and then was back and forth between Southern Florida and South Carolina for the rest of my childhood.
Not too different from small town Aiken, huh?
A little bit. Everybody knows everybody on the island. So at least here you can go from one side of the town to the other and meet new people, but there everyone knows everybody.
So you have any siblings?
Yes.
Yes.
My brother Langston's my stepbrother, and I was raised with him. And I have 3 adoptive siblings, and I have 5 half siblings. So big family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big family. So what kind of activities were you involved with at your high school?
I was in drama and art. I was big into art. Any kind of art, expos, drawing, painting, you name it, I was doing it.
How did you learn to be and want to be involved with the Navy?
I grew up near the water, and I didn't want to be in the Army. I wasn't too excited about that, but I grew up on the water. I was around boats when I was a kid. My grandfather, he ran charter boats, and I wanted to see the world, but I didn't necessarily want to do it on ground level. I kind of wanted to just be out on the ocean, and that's why I decided to go with the Navy. It was either the Navy or the Air Force, so I decided on the Navy, though.
When did you enlist?
February 28th, 2001. 2001.
Do you have any family in the Navy?
No.
No?
My great-great uncle was in the Navy a long time ago. He was a chaplain, so he did religious ministries, but that was before my time, so.
So when and where did you enlist?
Columbia, South Carolina, MEPS, and it was, in February, so when I went to Chicago, it was pretty cold up there. That was the first time I'd seen, major snow, so that was a shocking experience for me.
So you did boot camp in the winter?
In the winter, yes. Shoveling snow, bundled up. Not something I was used to.
No.
No, not at all.
Do you remember what your instructor was like?
I had 3. My chief, we were his last, what they call push. So when you go through boot camp, they're pushing you through, basically. So we were his last division, and the lady, she was a DC-1, which is damage control. It's firefighting, and she was about 4'0", and she'd get on top of chairs and scream and yell and get in your face and try to intimidate you. And then the other one, he was a signalman second class, which is flags. They deal with flags, coding, which was kind of funny because that's what I was doing in the Navy when I first joined. That was what I enlisted as, and we were his first push, so it was interesting, the 3 of them, and we were in a performance division, so we actually got to leave boot camp and perform all over Waukegan, Illinois.
Do you remember what the worst day of boot camp was?
For most people, it would probably be the day they got their shots. But since I was allergic to the one shot everybody hated, which was penicillin, I wasn't too worried about that. But I'd have to say the hardest day would be the battle stations day, because it's 24 to 72 hours of just physical exertion. You're rescuing people, you're fighting fires, you're doing flooding, and then at the end though you graduate. So there's a little bit of reward there at the end of that.
So you would say the best day was probably graduation?
Well, yeah, that's the day you get to take off your recruit ball cap and put on your actual Navy hat, and everybody's completely worn out, but they're so excited that it's done, and they're getting to go see their family and then go to their first command. So they're definitely excited about that, and it's just a different kind of feeling.
So how did your family react when you enlisted?
My mom cried and my dad was angry. So,
Yeah. Why was he angry?
He was mad at me because I didn't talk to him about it. He didn't think it was real. He was in denial, I think. He kept saying, I'll see you in a month, I'll see you in 2 months. And, you know, that turned into a year. And then 15 years later, now I'm back in my hometown. So for him, it took him a while. And my mom just cried because she was having issues with her baby leaving. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So you think that they were happy to see your graduation?
I think it was a good experience for them to actually see me graduate from boot camp. I think then they knew it was real. This is real. My child just did this, so it was different. Because I never mentioned military at all prior to joining. So that was completely left field for them. They had no idea that I was going to do it.
Just went from drama in high school to the Navy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So where exactly were you stationed at after boot camp?
After boot camp, I was in San Diego, California, on the Nimitz. It's CVN, it's a carrier. And they were doing workups to deploy. So we were about to deploy. I didn't get to spend a whole lot of time in port before we were gone for like 11 months. So it's a long time to be away. But I think it was better that way because then I just got that first deployment out of the way and it wasn't as hard. But being on a carrier is like being on the ocean, out in the ocean in a big city. As there's, 7,000 to 9,000 people on board that ship. So.
Yeah. What did you do on the Nimitz?
When I started, I was in what's called a GTEP program, Guaranteed A-School program. So I did signaling, flags, and coding, and I also did navigation and weather. And I was supposed to decide by the end of that deployment which one I wanted to do more so they could send me back to what's called a C school, which is a secondary school for that. And by the time I decided what I wanted to do, they had gotten rid of one of the rates and kind of combined them together so that they were put into the same job anyway. So I didn't really have to decide. They decided for me.
What did you do after the Nimitz?
Went to school for quartermaster, which is navigation, weather, coding, everything rolled into one. And then I went to the USS Roosevelt, which is a destroyer out of Mayport, Florida. And I was there and I deployed with them. And then I went to shore duty, worked for Harbor Patrol with tugboats, did a number of deployments there, after that.
Can you tell us about the activities that your unit was involved in?
Most of the time we were trying to when we were on the carriers, we were just patrolling the borders. We'd go from Somalia up into around the Middle East, Persian Gulf, and back down. So we were just patrolling the waters down there. And we were in the Persian Gulf. We got called down to Africa because they had some type of pirate evasion they wanted to do. And then I got flown off. And then I ended up in Mayport after school, and we went to do protection of the oil platforms in northern Persian Gulf because they were having small vessels come, they'd steal oil drums, and they'd try to make it to shore so they could be in their territorial waters. So we were trying to make sure they didn't do that. And then we had another group of ships with us that was doing drug evasion. Then after that, we did actual pirate evasion out of Somalia with the Carney. And that one was probably the most interesting one because we were chasing down pirates. And when you think of pirates, you're not thinking of like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
You're thinking of, they're Somali pirates. They have very small, low to the water level boats. They're long. They can hold about 20 people or more. And they go and they try to board on to freight vessels or smaller boats to try to take them over so they can steal their livestock or their food or hold people hostage. There's a number of different reasons why they do it. So our job is to try to stop them from getting to that point and driving them, into the authorities, basically. And then the last deployment I did, most of my deployments there was that was what I was doing. But the last deployment was humanitarian. And we went down to Somalia, Kiribati, Tonga, New Caledonia. All of the islands down there had been hit by typhoons, and they didn't have water, so we brought them ROs and food and medical and clothing. So that was the most rewarding, and I liked that because that was my last deployment. So the most memorable to me, meeting everybody, the children, the locals, how appreciative everybody was, kind of gave me more of a sense of purpose to be there with them and kind of have a happier feeling about military deployments. So.
What was the daily life like on the ships?
At first, you have to adjust. And it also depends on what kind of ship you're on. When you're on a carrier, you don't really feel like you're moving. You don't notice it when you get underway. When you're on a smaller ship, you feel everything. When the bad weather comes, you feel it. Sometimes you're walking on the walls. Sometimes you're walking on the ceiling. Sometimes you're walking on the floor. Sometimes your feet aren't even touching the ground when you try to go upstairs because the waves are so bad. So that's an adjustment. Trying to work out when the weather's like that is also an adjustment. Being confined to smaller spaces, living with 40 females in one room, that's hard. And then being in places on shore, you have these what they call Connex boxes, which literally are storage boxes that you would use for your self-storage or something, and they put beds in them, and that's where you sleep, or they'll have tents and that's where you sleep. And on a ship, sometimes you have hot water, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you can take a shower, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can use the phone if you wait an hour in line to talk 15 minutes. Sometimes you can't. It just depends on what's going on. It's different though, but you get used to it. Get into a routine. They keep you out there just long enough that you don't get irritated with it. Then you pull in the port for a couple of days to kind of relieve your stress or just get your feet on the ground, and then you're back out again. So it's not too bad. You don't really think about it once you get out there.
What was their shore leave like?
Depends on your rank. So the longer you're in, the more liberty you get. The newer guys, they have to go out, they have to have a liberty buddy with them, somebody, 2 or more people, so that they, safety in numbers. Most of the time they can't stay out overnight. And then as you're in longer, then you can, put in a request to stay out overnight in the Liberty ports. As long as you have somebody there and you check in, they know everybody's safe. Because the reality of it is you don't think about it, but you are military and you're in foreign countries and you don't know what anyone's ulterior motives are. So safety is like number one, but a lot of people don't think about it when they come off the ship. They're just happy to be on shore and have fun and see the local sites. They try to make sure they have somebody who can set up tours to places that you might not be able to see. So they do discount trips and stuff like that. And then there's just others that just want to wander around wherever we're at and just see whatever the local sites have to offer. So.
Yeah. So what rank was your highest rank?
I made E6 in 11 and a half years. I was up for E7 when my dad got sick and I got out of the military. So if I had stayed, I would have put E7 on, but I got out instead.
So how is that like to have to rise in the ranks?
Well, Navy's a little different than some of the other branches. An advancement exam is required for every rank that you put a chevron on, which would be your petty officers, So it's required. And if you don't pass it, you don't make it, you don't get to put rank on. And there's some people, because the ratings, your job, if it's overfilled, it makes it even harder. So now you have to compete not only with everybody in the military in the Navy for whether or not you're going to make rank, but you also have to compete with an overstaffed portion of that branch as well. So particularly for my job, there was a lot of people in my job, and so sometimes I'd take my advancement and only 3% of the whole Navy would get advanced, but I'd made it every time. So it's all about studying and making sure you don't get in any trouble. You got to have, that goes hand in hand. You have to be able to show leadership and know what you're talking about when you take your tests. So.
How was it like staying in touch with your family?
I think it was harder for them than it was for me. You get into a routine, you get into working, you get into your lifestyle, and also helping them to understand that sometimes the schedule does not match their schedule. So when it's nighttime there, it's daytime where I'm at, or in the middle of the night where I'm, it's middle of the day where they are. So they knew after a little while that when I called, you answer the phone, or I might not be able to call you again for a week. You know, but internet also helped us. As time went on, we did have access to internet. A lot of the ships went to having Facebook pages and be able to let the crew use Facebook as long as they didn't tell specifically where we were going until after we were there. So we'd have to either be leaving that place to say, oh, we just went to such and such. So that way no one could break protocol and they couldn't map out where we were going next or when we were going to be pulling in, because that's a dangerous time, because the ship can't maneuver out of a way of danger when it's pulling into port. So that was a big thing. And then you couldn't talk about a lot of things with your family until you got home. So that was another thing as well.
So you have kids.
I do.
So when did you meet your husband?
We both met in the military, but we didn't meet on the ship. We met in Savannah. Ships had pulled in, and everybody was on Liberty because we were doing, sometimes they'll do local state trips and let the ships pull in because they're doing a workup. So basically what a workup is, they pull out, they act like they're playing war games, and then they'll pull in somewhere like it's a Liberty port. And it's kind of preparing you to get used to going out overseas. And those people don't really take it that seriously, but you know, that's what it's for. But that's where I met him. We were together 8 years. We have 2 children. They're 10 and 8. And we are no longer married, but we were both prior military. He was damage control, firefighting, and I did the navigation and weather.
So when you had your kids and you were pregnant, you were still active in the Navy?
Yes. Yes. So you can't be on the ship past your 20th week because of medical reasons, obviously. You could fall, you could hurt yourself. They don't have the medical capabilities to take care of you, so you go on a shore duty. But you still work the whole time. I mean, I worked all the way up till my due date. So, I mean, you do. And it's different, and they give you 42 days of leave time, downtime, after your child's born, where you can take care of your child and not have to go into work every single day. And they give the fathers 10 days that they can choose during that time frame to take to be with you to help you out. So they try to compromise. And then if you've been married long enough, they try to make sure you're both stationed in the same general region. So we both were out of Mayport, Florida, one of us on a ship, one of us on shore. So they tried to switch it up every time so that one of us would always be home with the kids and we would still be in the same general area with each other. So.
What did you do while you were on shore?
I worked for Mayport Harbor Control, so tugboat masters, opening and closing the gates, doing boom jobs around the ship so that the oil, if there was an oil spill, it could be contained. I'd communicate with OSHA, and then I went to work for a Mayport Safety Department, which was different because I was working with DoD employees. I was the only military member there, so that was definitely a different experience, and got to work with OSHA a lot when I was there. I liked it though.
How do you think you would respond if your children wanted to join the military?
I would support them in whatever decision they make. I feel like military is good for building structure. Like, there's a discipline you learn. You learn that there's so many trivial things in life that you shouldn't be worried about, really. And I feel like it just teaches you about leadership and how to be a little more professional in life, to be honest with you. I think that it's a good experience, especially if they want to see the world too. So the benefits they could get out of it, who knows in 20 years if there's going to be benefits for schooling. I mean, the economy's not that great right now. So, you know, and if they still offer benefits for military members, then I would definitely encourage them to do that if they don't want to go straight into school, because if they're not ready, they're not going to do well. And seeing the world is another thing. They can travel on the government's dime. They can see the world, but they also are serving our country in the same time. So they're learning responsibility. They're learning how to be mature. They're learning about teamwork. They're getting to see places they otherwise might not have been able to see, and they're being able to earn that money for them to come back and ultimately go to school, which is what a lot of people in the military, that's the main premise, either for themselves or for their family, because you can roll your benefits over to your family members, your spouses, your children. So that option is there.
You said that you left the military because your father was sick?
Yes. So it was a hard decision for me, because I wanted to be what they call a lifer. You stay for 20 plus years, retire, then start a whole new career. My dad got sick, and my children would stay with them when I would deploy. And so it was hard. And it was a hard decision, but ultimately when I got home, you know, family is very important to me, and I wouldn't change that decision at all. I do miss the military. I do miss you have friendships that you build, it's like family. You still talk to these people, and every time you see them, it's kind of, well, yeah, it's like you didn't miss a day, even if it's been 5 years or whatever. And then there's a language that you speak with each other that you just understand. Most people don't, if they haven't been in the military or grown up around it or been around a military family. So I don't know how to describe it unless you're there. I mean, I try, but you know, there's certain aspects that nobody understands unless they've actually been in the military. So,
do you think that your military experience has affected the way that you've raised your kids?
Yes, I think so. I'm more strict than probably a lot of parents that I know. But it's not just from the military, it's just from general experience. You know, you see how other people's children turn out, or maybe family members turn out, or, you know, you look at the statistics today on children and as they grow up into adolescence and young adults, and you just, you know, every day something's happening on the news. So, I don't know, I'm a little more strict, and I'm more, you know, I don't say multiple times that you need to do something, and it's like you do it, and it's a routine. So the way that I do things is routine for them, just like it was routine for me in the military, which I think helps them with their daily schedule. Keep a routine, and they tend to be happier. They tend to do what you ask them to do a little more frequently and without any kind of issues. I mean, every child's going to have their issues every once in a while, but the routine helps.
So after you left the military, what did you do?
When I first got out of the military, I came back to South Carolina. That was 2013, November, and I enrolled here at USC. And I started going to school, and I started working part-time at Security Federal Bank and just being around my family. I did own a house in Florida, so that's one of the reasons why I left. If I had my choice, I would have just stayed and continued to do my schooling and working for the bank, and that would have been it. But my renters moved out, and I moved back to Florida. And it took a while to get enrolled there because I had missed the enrollment for that semester, so I had to start working right away. And I did marketing management. And I worked for a company where I traveled and taught people how to market products. It was fun. You get to meet new people every day, get to do training. It was, I moved very quickly in that, but there was a lot of traveling and a lot of time away from my kids. And after being in the military for so long, I didn't want to purposely choose to be in a job that was going to keep me away from my kids again. So I ended up, as soon as the semester started again, I stopped working there and started working in the student center, veteran center, and going to school until my house sold, and then I moved back up here. So
you were in school in Florida?
Yes. So I was working full-time, going to school full-time, taking care of my kids, and then I stopped working because it was keeping me away too long, and I just solely focused on my children, selling the property, going to school, trying to get back up here to South Carolina to be around my family. So,
what was your major in Florida?
Same as it is here, accounting. So business and accounting is my major. So,
why did you pick business?
It's in everything. Everything you do has something related to business, and almost every track or course that you take is going to require you to take some type of accounting class too. I mean, in the financial management class, there was people from all different backgrounds, different focuses. I don't think anybody in there had the same ultimate goal towards graduation. They're all different. I have physical therapists, to nursing program, to business majors, you name it, they're in there. So it's kind of in everything you do. And most people need somebody who knows about accounting or business management somewhere along the line, so that's why I chose that.
Why did you pick USC Aiken?
To be honest, I did not want to go to a IT school or no technical college. I wanted a university. And this was the closest campus to where we were living, and their Veterans Center offered a lot more than some of the other schools. They work with you. Robert Murphy is fantastic. He runs the Veterans Center. And I felt like I was being welcomed by family, and everybody was so adamant about helping me transition from the military into school. Let's get your benefits started, here's your advisor, this is the campus. So that made a huge part of my decision to come here. And when I went to the campuses down in Florida, I had a very hard time figuring out where I wanted to go because I was comparing them to University of South Carolina Aiken campus. I was finding that I wasn't getting that same, comfortable feeling. I wasn't very easy about it. They didn't make it easy for veterans sometimes to seek out the benefits they needed to enroll. University of North Florida was the ultimate choice down there, and eventually, I settled in and they were good. And, but compared to here, no. I like it better here.
So how was the adjustment for you from military to college?
College was very disciplined. The difference, though, is that in the military, you constantly have somebody there to make sure you're doing what you need to do. I was obviously a higher ranking, so I was that person to make sure other people did what they were supposed to do. And I may have one or two that would keep up with me. So you don't have that continuous reminder, hey, I got to do this, or I'm going to get in trouble, or I've got to do this because I'm obligated to do this. It's a choice to be here in the university, and I think that's why me being military and doing it is better than me just coming out of high school and doing it, because there's a little more discipline there where you're like, okay, I'm using my benefits to go to school here, so I'm not just going to waste the benefits that I worked hard for and not have my good grades and work toward that ultimate goal. But it can be hard sometimes.
So you feel like you get more out of the university having gone into the military than having just come right out of college?
Sometimes there's things that I wish I could have done. There's fraternities, and there's the young college life, and working in groups and building up and learning about things that you don't know about because you haven't experienced life yet in a major way. So I do miss that. I wonder, what would it be like if that's what I decided to do first. But I wouldn't trade the life experiences I have now because it helps me focus better. And also it helps me to understand a lot of the core courses that I have in depth, more so than I probably would have when I was younger because I wasn't focused on much back then. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So,
do you find that being an older student, the students here on campus might treat you different?
The only thing, sometimes I get a lot more questions. Like, hey, do you think you could be my study partner on this? Hey, you seem to kind of know what this is about. You think you might be able to help me, or we could study together. And the reality of it is I may not be any better than anyone else at what we're learning. We're all learning it together. And the difference is I feel like I have to try a little bit harder because some of the information, for instance, chemistry. When I took chemistry, I hadn't taken chemistry since high school. That was a long time ago. So, it was hard. So I had to try to network out there and get to know people, and you got to just age should be no difference when you're in school. It is harder, though, sometimes because you're not on the peer level of some of the younger college students. So that's why I really like the Veterans Center, too, because you have a variety of ages. But also, with the military, we're not shy. I'll make friends with anybody because it's all about networking. It's all about helping people succeed. So.
Do you think that being a veteran, the students here see you differently?
I don't know. We had a veteran seminar when I first came to USC in 2014. We showed a military movie called Restrepo, and we invited students, family members, faculty, you know, to come and view it, and then we had a panel of members from every branch. And I think that was the first time that we actually kind of got an insight on what everyone else thinks about military members going to school, because there was a lot of questions. There were so many questions. How was this, and what was this like, and you know, what made you decide to go in, and you know, what was it like being overseas in war, and you know, do you think I should do this, and what do you think my parents would say? You know, there was a lot of questions and about that. It's very similar to this interview, and I think that's the first time that I kind of got an insight on what non-military members, other students thought, you know, or that may not have asked us any other time unless we did something like that, which was kind of cool. So, and then after that, we had people coming up to us all the time. Hey, how are you doing? That was great, you know. So,
what do you want to do in the future with your degree once you graduate?
CPA. I want to get my CPA and just continue on the career path. Eventually, having my own business. So, that's my goal.
You think that the military will help you have your, like, help give you the leadership, has helped you with, for your, having your own company, your own business?
I think so. I don't think I would know how to be in management or how to work well on a professional level with others without it. It's different when you're in the military. You can't just talk to somebody any kind of way. You have to know this person. You have to understand their background, where they come from, what motivates them, what are their goals in life, what's their family life like. There's a lot of things that you in the military, because you're with this person for so long. These people become kind of like family, and I feel like if I was to run a business, I want to do it the same way. I want to sit down with each employee and know a little bit about them and what they're motivated to do and what are their future plans and what's important to them in life. Much like I did when I was in the military, because it helped us to build a better bond. If they're happy, you're happy, and vice versa. So I think that really helped with that, just teaching you how to be a better leader. Not so much about leadership in general, but how to be a better leader and how to be more people and skill oriented when it comes to that.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about your military experience that we haven't covered?
It's not, I'm not going to say that military is hard, but I'm not going to say that it's easy either. If it's a choice that somebody wants to make to go in the military, they need to think about it, and they need to talk with their family about it, and they need to visit every branch and really know what job they want to do in the military, because recruiters for the military are going to put you in no matter what. Their job is to put you in the military. So before anyone makes that decision, they should really know what they want to do in the military and if they qualify to do that position. Because sometimes you'll go in and you do qualify for the job you want, but they're not looking for people to do that at that moment. So you can wait. Don't ever feel like pressured to join because they need you right then. Go in and do something you love, because you'll have a better experience overall. I know a lot of people in the military that joined and were put into positions just because they needed it, not because it was something they wanted to do, and they thought that was the only option they had. And after joining, they're like, man, I could have done this or this and this, and that makes a complete different experience for you. If you're happy doing something in the military that you want to do and being able to serve your country, I think you get more enjoyment out of it, and you tend to stay a little longer in the military too. So that would be my only advice when it comes to, if you're thinking about joining, take your time and do the research and don't rush into it, and know what you're doing before you join, because the benefits after the fact, I think, are really good. So.
Right. I'd like to thank you for your time, Megan.
You're welcome, and
thank you for your service.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.